What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream on this beautiful Sunday night, December 4th, 2022. It is about 8:33 p.m. California time here along the West Coast, and taking a look at the latest webcam imagery there of the Mauna Loa volcanic eruption there from fissure number 3. I'm going to switch that up today from the live stream. Or on the live stream, I should say, from a still image up to their updated webcam image, which is pretty cool to see at night. Look at all that lava flowing out. Pretty spectacular. Latest earthquake shows a 2.1 earthquake into Oklahoma. Now, before we get into the earthquake activity, I kind of want to cover some other activity real quick. This map here is, this website's called windy.com, and we're going to check out a substance here called SO2. Now that is sulfur dioxide, which is put out during volcanic eruptions. It's pretty hazardous to human health when it's breathed in. Oftentimes it irritates the nose, throat, and airways to cause some coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, all that type of stuff. Concentrated levels of sulfur dioxide, the symptoms normally kick in about 10 to 15 minutes after breathing it in. And right now, there's a lot of sulfur dioxide being emitted from the Mauna Loa volcanic eruption here, originating from this area in the Pacific. Of course, the jet stream patterns here kind of make it flow up. Currently, you can follow the upper level winds here with it right now. And here in Northern California, we're in the clear, but over in Baja California, throughout portions of the Southern Plains, and big time been swirling around this high pressure system right here. Actually, a pretty massive high pressure system there in the Gulf, kind of just keeping it concentrated in that area. And of course, if you look at the other patterns here, they're all over the place, and this spreads out throughout the atmosphere. Very high levels of the atmosphere. And occasionally, we do get this, we get acid rain sometimes. Now, I'm not 100% certain how that forms, how it works, but I do know the combination there of SO2 and water droplets, and it can create acid rain. Sulfuric type acid. I messaged the geologists in charge there at the USGS volcanoes for the HVO, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, and I kind of asked them about how this eruption compares to the eruption back in 1984, and what does all of this emissions here, this SO2 emissions, mean for the health, not only for the Big Island, but also for the rest of the world. I have heard now, I looked at a couple of reports during major volcanic eruptions, the temperature of the Earth's surface typically cools in a period of about 3 years. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to react with the climate. Obviously, there is some other volcanoes active. Vanuatu area, there's some other smaller ones out here. But the concentrations are coming from, right now, the Big Island of Hawaii, Mauna Loa area, and it's getting lifted up into the atmosphere and, spread out across the globe here. So it's pretty well concentrated. So I'm gonna wait for an email from this guy and see what he has to say. Again, that's Ken Hahn there with the USGS HVO. I just emailed him earlier tonight, hoping to get a response maybe tomorrow. If not, then maybe I'll give him a call, maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday. But something to definitely ask a professional there, because I'm kind of curious about this myself here. It's a large concentration there of the SO2 in the atmosphere here from Mauna Loa currently taking place. Obviously, there's other volcanoes around the area that are in eruptive stage. But man, Mauna Loa is definitely kicking out a lot of SO2, that's for sure. Okay, earthquake activity there at Mauna Loa. Let's go ahead and check this out. Looks like, obviously continued activity. They have lowered the threat, at least the color code here. Let's go over here and check this out real quick. Volcanic hazards. From red down to orange. Now that means that things are relatively stable in terms of the volcanic eruption that's ongoing right now. There's no major signs of an increased explosive event, and things are just similar to what's going on there at Kilauea Volcano. The eruption is continuing. There's been no major new fissures open, so they have dropped that color code from red down to orange. The latest update here, again, the alert level warning, color code orange. The northeast rift zone eruption of Mauna Loa continues. One active fissure, that's going to be fissure 3, the one we seen there on the live webcam, is feeding a lava flow downslope. Fissure 3 is generating a lava flow traveling to the north towards the Daniel K. Highway. That is still at a level ground region, which has slowed down the flow significantly over the past several days. It looks like that is currently 2.25 miles from the Daniel K. Highway, Saddle Road. Looks like where the Fissure 3 lava channel is branching on the steeper slopes of the northeast flank, about halfway down the lava flow, there were several small overflows recorded over the past day. Current rates look like about 40 feet per hour. So this is going to go off and on. Sulfur dioxide emission rates of approximately 180,000 tons per day were measured on December 1st. Volcanic gas is rising high and vertically into the atmosphere. Well, that's good, right? But, well, what about the rest of the world? Before being blown to the west at a high altitude, generating a VOG, volcanic air pollution, obviously, in areas downwind. Now, there is a couple different VOG informational statements here from certain sites. Let's see if this one is going to be functional here. It kind of gives a whole bunch of stuff in regards to air quality, space-based data and images, and some facts and sheets and stuff like that. But I kind of use the windy map here. It's really cool to check out. I have the premium version here. I can't remember exactly what I pay for it here per year, but it's really cool. They add a lot of stuff. SO2 is one of them, and that's from volcanoes. And you can see it's all over the place here currently, folks, with the Mauna Loa emissions there. So just kind of seeing how this plays out. Of course, the longer this eruption continues, the more this is going to be widespread across the globe and in the atmosphere. All right, let's see here. Let me go back here real quick to the Mauna Loa and see if they have the latest updated map out here today. Mauna Loa eruption map. There is the current flow front. Notice the advancement has kind of spread out a little bit due to that level land within this vicinity, just below 7,000 feet here. Kind of plateauing a little bit here and just spreading out. But it will continue to advance down slope eventually. But right now it's just kind of getting a little bit fatter there, far as that line goes in the flow front from Fissure 3. Right, let's see, earthquake activity here. Things, things kind of rocking a little bit around the Samoa area. Yeah, Samoa or Samoa. A couple different pronunciations there. I've even in school, I was told Samoa, but a lot of the locals in the original traditional name Samoa there seen a 6.7 earthquake. This originally came in as a mistake from the Tsunami Warning Center as a 7.5, and they actually noted that mistake. So whoever put out that notification there, at least admitted to it. That's good. 6.7, it did trigger a tsunami advisory for a little while. Eventually, that 6.7 was, or at least the tsunami was not generated. There was no indications of a tsunami being generated, which is good news. But either way, it did kind of stir up a little bit there for a little bit, as far as that tsunami potential goes. But things kind of quieted out. Since then, what have we seen? A couple more earthquakes within the vicinity of that 6.7. 4 4.9 and a 5.1 within that same area. This is a very active zone in terms of earthquakes, and large ones at that. So may not be done for the earthquake activity. The Kermadec Trench, not showing a whole lot of activity currently on the USGS model here, but the EMSC listed up here actually looks pretty quiet. GeoNet and EMSC not showing a whole lot of activity throughout New Zealand, which is good news. Real quick, let me check out the GeoNet drums here from Taupo Volcano. Things appear to be calming down on the seismograph stations. Notice that there's not a lot of earthquake activity out here anymore. A couple days ago, this thing was lit up with earthquakes. Now, only a couple very small ones around the super volcano there. But still watching it. It could obviously change, right? Definitely watching that. Let's see. Around the Indonesia area, Java Trench seeing some movement as well. 5.0 earlier this morning and a 4.3. The most recent earthquake there, about 14 kilometers deep. In the Java Sea area, that was a super deep earthquake, 599 kilometers deep. Although this area does see quite a bit of deep earthquake movement. Notice the black circles there indicating deep earthquakes. Zoom in here a little bit where that epicenter is. Shallower earthquake activity up towards the subduction zone itself. But this area is definitely riddled with some very deep movement. All right, around the Philippine plate here, we've got 3 earthquakes. One earthquake, one of the recent ones here, 5.2 in the Mariana Trench. It's been awfully quiet here recently. 35 kilometers deep. Definitely not a deep earthquake, but still waiting for some adjustment here. In one of our zones of some quiet period, or quiet zones, I should say, is the Mariana Trench northward here, across the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This area is it's quiet, definitely quiet. We've seen a couple 5s throughout this area over the last week or so, but nothing major. But I think this area is definitely building, overdue for some activity, at least in the larger size, above 5.0. Let's see, off the coast here of the Myanmar area, 5.2 coming in. That was, looks like earlier this evening as well. Kind of an oddball earthquake. See what we got for data out here. We don't really see a whole lot of earthquake activity out here away from the main plate boundary. And obviously looking at this map, you can kind of see where it's at up here in north of the Bangladesh area. And northern India, around the Himalaya Mountains area. But here in this bay, we don't really see too much activity. A couple sporadic earthquakes, but nothing really listed up there. Far as the frequency goes, there's not a whole lot. So a little odd earthquake there. I like to pay attention to those little weird ones. Sometimes these odd ones tell a story of what could be coming to a certain area. Another 4.3, Indonesia. These other earthquakes out here pretty old. It looks like we did have a 5.5 down here early this morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning. This is another weird, odd earthquake here in the blue circle. What is that, Gabon? Hopefully that's correct. If not, I'm sure there'll be someone out there to correct me. Earthquake activity. There's just not. Let me see what we got for movement. It's just not really seismically active out here. Look at that. There's nothing here being reported since the 1900 or so, at least 4.5 and above in this area. So that's another odd one. Definitely getting some weird earthquakes out here for sure. That was up in the yellow category for the pager. Not a huge earthquake in terms of, here in California, 5.5 is just kind of a moderate quake. But for this area, very shallow 3.6. That definitely shaking things up out there. Looks like it may be a thrust fault type indication here on the fault plane solution. All right, let's see what else we got here across the area. Atlantic Ocean, Northern Atlantic Ocean. That was early this morning. Seeing a couple fives up here. Well, at least one five. The other one dropped off here from the 24-hour map. 5.4 near the Rick James Ridge, north of the Charlie Gibbs fracture zone here. Down here, another odd earthquake, 5.1. And I say that because most earthquake activity, if you look at the map, most earthquakes are going to occur along the plate boundaries where plate stress is built up over time and we get these earthquakes. And these intraplate earthquakes here, such as this, is a little weird. 5.1, unless there's like a fracture zone out here. And this is kind of a, I don't know, there's some type of features out there in the oceanic crust. 5.1, let's see what we got for historical data goes. Man, not a whole lot. Look at that. This is another area that really hasn't seen any activity. 1900, nothing above 4.5 out here. And, well, today we got a 5.1. So some weird activity occurring there in the earthquake department with these intraplate earthquakes. 5.1 in the Argentina area. Underneath, I should say, 169 kilometers deep. Also 4.3 underneath the San Antonio de los Cobres, Argentina area, 215 kilometers deep. Pretty deep earthquake there. Let me check out the EMSC model. Kind of curious to see if we got a swarm going on down there. Doesn't look like it. 3.8 off the coast of Chile. A little bit of movement along the Middle America Trench off the coast of the let's see what we got out here. Guatemala area, it looks like. There's a couple other fours missing off the map. The USGS ain't showing it here, but ain't showing it. They ain't showing it. They're not showing it here. But there is some other activity across the region. Puerto Rico area, got some small earthquakes around the Puerto Rico area. Some 2s and 3s right now. Nothing major going on. All right, let's get into the states here. Got a little bit of, I don't know, swarming. I don't know if I'd call this a swarm, but Georgia. Out there in northern Georgia. Beautiful area, I'm sure. I do need to visit this area of the states here soon. Pretty much. Arkansas. Well, I've been over to Arkansas, Louisiana, but this specific area out here I really haven't. So one day I will. A couple 2s, some low-grade 2s near Dalton, Georgia. Obviously, there's some mountains up here. Rocky Face Mountain. I am not going to say that word on here. There's a Horn Mountain. A couple other different fault systems out here, I'm sure. A little earthquake activity kicking up about 10 kilometers deep here in this area, northern Georgia. Nothing going on across the New Madrid zone. Northern Oklahoma. North of Enid, 2.1. Let's see what we got here. 2.9 kilometers deep out in. Shall we look? I don't know. Let's check it out. See what we got out here. Well, up here in this region, obviously along this road, there's some what looks like some pumping operations out here. I'm not for sure exactly. Well, this kind of looks like one here too, within basically feet of this area. Maybe some type of wastewater injection disposal site where that 2.1 kicked off here just within the last hour. All right, what else we got? Texas, kind of a little spotty out there around Pecos. Nothing major going on. A couple 2s and some 3s. Yellowstone National Park. Let me see if our site is up right now. Stand by for a second. Yeah, it is. Awesome. Cool. These guys were down for this morning and last night's update, but it looks like they are up currently. There is the signature from the 6.7 in the Samoa area. Pretty significant looking. Almost looks a little bit bigger than a 6.7 for being thousands of miles away, but that is the signature of that earthquake there in the southwestern Pacific plate area. Far as localized seismic activity goes, a couple very small quakes, it looks like early this morning, but for the most part, I'm not really seeing anything major going on here across the Yellowstone area. Things look pretty quiet for the most part. We got one earthquake. Let me see where that earthquake's at here. I'm talking about this one right here. This is kind of an odd looking one. It seems to be showing up. Actually, it kind of looks like a distant earthquake here on this map, so I'm not for sure. It may be an older earthquake from late last night, I'm guessing, but I'm not for sure exactly which one it was. Either way, Yellowstone activity pretty calm. There's not a whole lot of movement currently happening up there. Into the area of northern Nevada, north of the Sheldon area, and the Oregon, portions of eastern Oregon, seeing a little bit of activity. Some twos kicking off here. This has been ongoing for over the last couple days, I believe. Let me check it out. A couple more earthquakes added to the list here, about 6 over the last week. Nothing big. The largest one shows a 2.9, 15 kilometers deep, but some sporadic activity. And those depths there are kind of all over the place. There's definitely some ancient or older volcanic activity out here. All right, Northern California, pretty quiet. Bay Area as well. I mean, looking at California, it looks fairly quiet in general. 2.5 map and above shows only a 2.7 near the Round Valley area, and also near the Kettleman City area of California, 2.9. Both of those coming in just earlier this evening. A little bit of activity across the Garlock Fault Shear Zone and the Ridgecrest area. No major activity currently happening into Southern California or the Brawley Seismic Zone or the infamous San Andreas Fault there. Things pretty quiet for now across the area. Checking out the tremor map here. Across the Cascadia subduction zone, 117 tremors. Not earthquakes, but tremors being reported up here. Outside of Seattle, southwest of Oak Harbor area, kind of within the Strait of Juan de Fuca. But this is activity occurring down dip of the Cascadia, about 45 kilometers or so down in there in the tremor zone. No major earthquake activity or any earthquake activity to notice here following those events. All right. What else do we have here? Alaska, not a whole lot going on. I mean, this is very typical up here. I'm not seeing any major unrest, any unusual activity. Cook Inlet, always active up here in this area. 2.2 and a 1.9. The latest quakes there on the map. Let's go ahead and check out the space weather activity here, where we're looking at a couple different features here. We have a pretty awesome looking coronal hole that is facing us currently. A massive one, right? Obviously we see it, 53. The current updated image here shows this in position directly facing Earth with a awesome, very awesome feature here. Let me see if you guys can see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Zoom into this feature here. This is not a coronal hole, but a rather large filament stretching 700,000 kilometers. These two areas here are in prime position to provide us with some space weather events. This plasma filament right here is currently magnetically anchored, right? Sometimes these things blast off from the surface of the sun and shoot out plasma and can create some very nice solar storms. But currently, it is anchored in place for now. We'll watch this pretty closely if this thing becomes unstable. Definitely something to keep an eye on here over the coming days with the massive filament here and also this coronal hole. This coronal hole shooting out some high-speed solar wind particles at Earth. That will be geo-effective. But right now, I want to watch this one right here, this filament. It's pretty stable. It hasn't blasted off yet. But if it does, and we get this coronal hole feature, things could get interesting there with the both of those shooting off towards the Earth right now, if it should happen. But in the coming days, we have to worry about the coronal hole, and that will be here in a few days. Current 3-day geomagnetic forecast here calls for some unsettled conditions over the next couple nights, but we'll know when this coronal hole comes, or at least the effects of it, when it reaches Earth here in a few days. Probably be updated maybe tomorrow or tomorrow night. But solar flare activity, yes, things are getting pretty active on the sun with a bunch of solar flare regions that we need to watch here pretty closely. Got this massive sunspot down here on the southern portion of the sun. That's getting ready to rotate here into view of Earth. Should that thing blast off any CME, that will also be geo-effective here in the coming days. Either way, things are very active. There's a couple regions I want to watch pretty closely, and this here is definitely one of them. There's a couple different instability fields here of the magnetic structure that we need to watch. Also, this one appears gaining a little bit of instability. And a couple new regional sunspots up on the northeastern section of the sun that we need to watch as well. The overall threat right now, 85% chance of a C flare, M flare at 20%, X flare around 5%. So we'll watch those sunspots accordingly and see how it plays out. Let's see, current solar wind stream conditions here, somewhat stable. Not seeing a whole lot of uptick here across the area. And the aurora forecast right now shows a little bit of unsettled conditions up around the higher latitudes into Canada. And but that's about it. All right, guys, I am going to jump off here. Again, things are getting very, very interesting on the sun. And not only that, but also activity here on planet Earth. We'll just kind of watch it and see how it plays out. That's about all we can do right now. Earthquakes are definitely ramping up in some odd areas. Most of these earthquakes that occur off of the plate boundary there, I definitely consider them odd. There's that 4.1 into the Gulf of California region. Wow, that was kind of loud. Looks like we've been seeing a couple 4s down there recently. Off the coast of Baja California area, a couple 4s at least, and nothing really being reported there from the USGS. And I seen this activity last night as well, so looks like there may be something brewing off the coast there of the Baja California area. So we'll watch that region pretty closely, see if it kind of ramps up towards the Southern California area. All right, folks, for now, definitely enjoy the beautiful live view here. 1900. That's definitely correct here because I got 9:01 p.m. California time here. It's a beautiful live view of Mauna Loa, fissure number 3, just spewing out some hot lava, creating some new land out there, and also putting up a whole lot of SO2 into the air. Again, once I hear back from the scientists in charge, Kin Han, he should email me back pretty soon, probably tomorrow morning sometime. I'll provide that with you guys here on the channel, let you know exactly what he states there in regards to the SO2 and how basically any effects that may cause out there, and also how this eruption compares to the 1984 eruption. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there. Tomorrow is Monday. Does anyone really want to hear that word? Probably not. Okay, guys, take care. Have a good night. Peace out.